Hello and welcome to 7 Second Offense. I'm with Cody Bender and Jimmy Scott. How you fellas doing this week?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well myself. I am slowly mentally coming out of the idea that we're leaving summer, even though, we've been at our house for like the entirety of the summer. But, it's different, but we're making it work.
Amen.
Amen. Welcome to this episode. Excited you tuned in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. We've linked some of our other episodes up in the corner so you can check those out. As well as if you're listening on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, or anywhere else that you listen to your podcasts, make sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. I'm excited about this episode because it is episode number 7. Woo!
7, baby.
Oh,
we made
baby.
it.
Go. I know that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody, but we're going to talk about why that's so important here in the first and second half later on in the episode. But right now, we're going to do a little segment that we like to call Under the Sun, talking about the Phoenix Suns, seeing as we are all fans of the team that has already lost a game in the bubble.
You see Booker's dunk today? Sorry.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah, that lefty on what's his face? Piscom or
Yeah.
whatever the name is. Yeah.
It's probably Piscom.
Yeah.
It's definitely 100% how you say that. All right. Jimmy is you a little hot already? Jimmy has come up with this week's Under the Sun topic. And Jimmy, lay it out to us. I like where this is going. Tell us a little bit about what you were thinking.
Yeah, so of course with everything being in Orlando, it's a little bit different in the sense that people don't have home court advantage. In fact, even the Magic don't have it. They're
right.
For them, they say that it just feels like another away game, even though they're 30 minutes away or whatever from where they actually would normally play. So anyways, there's this idea of home court advantage. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to dive into it too much. But I think that with this, a lot of people are going to be missing the reactions from the fans and kind of the emotions that, people get heated whenever people are being cheered or people are being booed, whatever it might be. And I would go as far as to say even the refs, I think that to an extent, whenever you're at someone's home court and you're like, you give in to the fans sometimes whenever, you make a controversial call. Right. And then it can, one play or one call could really affect the whole game.
Right.
And so without something like a home court advantage, Cody, I want to ask you this. Do you think that a team like the Suns, who for most people isn't really a highly favored team to begin with, are they actually better off in a situation like this where there's seemingly no home court advantage? It's just everything is neutral because there's no fans one way or the other. Right. And so while it can mess with everyone in different ways, are we actually better off because of it?
Oh, man. Yeah, I've never even looked at it from that perspective. Yeah, I would argue I think we might be better off. Yeah. When you're going up against a powerhouse, maybe like the Los Angeles Clippers or the LA Lakers, right. I think the disadvantage will always come for someone who has built something that everyone wants to follow. And so therefore they are used to performing and then having a fan base that shows up every single time. Like there's that accountability. We're going to go out there and win and highlights, and you're going to go out there and create chaos. Yeah. Either amping us up or then getting in the heads of refs or the opposing team. So, despite us taking that loss, I do think the Suns are at an advantage because teams, they're not going off that adrenaline. They're not having their fan base there.
Right. And, for people that, aren't from Phoenix, man, if you've ever been to a Suns game as of late, I know back when, we had our actual days of 5 Second Offense. And
our hoorah.
It was Phoenix Suns fans were next level. I didn't live here, but Cody, I know you did. And I've heard stories about how loud that arena was. Charles Barkley literally talks about it quite a bit of some of the best fans.
Unreal.
But we've been trash for so long that it's like now you go to Suns game, especially if they're playing like the Lakers or the Spurs or some of those like big rivals.
Right,
dude.
right.
I went to a Spurs game. Maybe this was 2 seasons ago now. I was wearing a Suns shirt and people were booing me at at the Suns arena. Yeah. Like, you suck. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's
whatsoever.
just not the culture here.
Yeah. So I mean, like right now, I mean, home court advantage is definitely wishy-washy. I'll say it's gotten a little bit better since, like, especially probably this year. It's been the best that it's been in a while.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to the game. I guess it was this season, which is weird because it feels like literal years ago. But it was the game where it would have been, I forget who they were playing, but it was like fourth quarter. We were tied. Kelly Oubre hits a corner 3, and then the other team goes down to hit a 3 to tie it up, and we have the ball with like 0.7 seconds left. Dude, the arena was loud. So loud. It was like,
I would love it.
Oh, it was so much fun.
There's nothing better. You just feel like you're a part of something.
And that was the thing. I think we even lost that game too, but like walking out of it, I'm like, dude, that was like, there was something that like
a little
happened
glimpse
there
of
that
hope.
nobody else is gonna like be a part of.
Right.
But it's an interesting thought for sure, because I mean I watched obviously The Last Dance over this COVID break, and there's so many moments where Michael Jordan would like get offended and it would like change the way that he played.
Right.
Which is like just so crazy that he had like he was the best player on the planet, and then he had like another level too when he like got like upset.
Right.
But there was this level of like, you know, whether it's like another player on another team, a ref, or fans. I think for a player like that, even though there's this extra gear that they have because of the arena.
Yep.
Versus you watch like so they had footage of him playing on the Dream Team when they're just like, it's literally just, you know, these all-stars in an arena, and the games are still heated, but it's heated in a different way because now it's like just like the competition and not like the arena.
Right.
So in that sense, it's like, I'm sure there's still like a level of like, I'm offended, I'm competitive. I mean, they're athletes, right? Like,
absolutely,
right.
It's what they do, but it definitely has to have like a different effect of like, you know, there is it's different playing in a room with no fans. I listened to an interview with one of my favorite soccer players, N'Golo Kante, and he's super introverted, and he was like, I actually like it way more. Because he doesn't like, you know, well, he likes people, but he just doesn't like a lot of people. So he's like, I can just go in, play my game, and leave, and it's like
he's striving.
Yeah, I'm just chilling. So I'm sure there's like that level too of some guys that are like, yeah, it's kind of nice, to be honest.
Yeah. Have you watched any games, either of you?
I've watched some highlights. I haven't watched any like full games.
I watched 2 of the Suns games, the last 2 ones.
Perfect. And so then you could attest, there's a gear missing. Every game I've watched, it feels off. So it just goes to validate Jimmy's kind of argument, what we're saying. It's well, there's something. There's a whole layer to the game that's just, it's gone.
And that's the thing about basketball. It's like the fans are so close to the arena or to the court.
Right.
It's always packed out. Basketball is already such a personality-driven sport that it's just like there's another level of like that fan that's like that added component.
Right.
So I guess to answer your question, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but it definitely is different. 100%.
Yeah, I think it's so. Then let's take the Suns out because I don't want to say it, but they're they're not going to make the playoffs. So let's take the Lakers versus the Clippers. Yeah. If that was in the playoffs and that were to happen, no matter who's at home, that's a LA Lakers game.
Yeah.
100%.
So like the Clippers now have the advantage because if there were fans, it would be 7 games of LA Lakers being at home.
Right.
Whether the Clippers were at home or not.
No, that's super real. And it's like, and I don't know if either, you know, but how like the playoff schedule is going to work. I'd imagine it's the same, but it's like, we aren't talking like, you know, 3 home games, 2 away games, another home game like that. That doesn't even matter now.
That's a bummer.
But here's another like question on this thing before we get on to the next segment. So I was talking with one of our coworkers, Jimmy and I's coworkers, who is an LA Lakers fan.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of talk lately, specifically for the Lakers, because this idea of like, you know, they want to win a championship. LeBron's there, J.R. Smith's there now. Like they got the pieces.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer because, you know, they're like, we feel like we're going to get, like, not as good basketball because guys are out of shape, you know, all this stuff. But he was like, I've been hearing some talk of people saying we'll get better basketball.
Yep.
Because it's like, what? They're just, like, sleeping, eating, and playing basketball. Like, that's literally all they're doing.
Yeah. They all fresh legs. So, come on. These dudes are millionaires preparing for the playoffs. They were conditioning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen those videos, Jimmy or Theo, of Rondo before he got injured again, but he's ripped.
Really?
Like, he is the biggest I've ever seen him. So, I mean, you got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry. All these guys are coming up fresh legs. LeBron.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. Just that aspect of not having fans. I don't think they're going to be able to reach that level. Game 7, 30 seconds left.
How wild is that going to be, dude? Watching an NBA Finals and it's just in an empty court.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Did you watch
Russ feeds off fans. Like, come on.
It's
going to be a weird dynamic, but I'm excited just to see how it plays out.
Same. Did you watch the UFC fight?
I didn't.
Bro, it was at Fight Island. Well, they've done 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's so weird though, because it's like UFC is such a sport where it's like everybody gets wild,
right?
But then like literally no one's there, so you just hear like a slap of like a shin to like a stomach, and then it's just like they just keep fighting. It was so awkward because you're just hearing weird like grunting and I mean, to be fair, it's like you have the Ultimate Fighter that's like kind of like that, but even with the Ultimate Fighter, there's like, you know what, 30, 40 people around.
Right.
It was weird. You should watch it.
Weird times.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a good question, man. It's a really good question.
That is.
Because that whole home court advantage thing is like, especially for basketball, is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. Anyways, okay. We're going to move into the first and second half. We're just going to move into the whole game, okay? I mean, basketball's changed. They're in Orlando, so we're changing the first and second half. We're just moving into the entire game. And basically here at 7 Second Offense, if you're new, if this is your first time, we have conversations that have changed the way we look at the world. And we talked about, when we started this whole podcast, okay, Cody and I had talked about doing a podcast for a long time. Jimmy's a good friend of both of ours, and so naturally, when we started this, Jimmy's going to be a part of it too. And things have evolved for us over this last 7 episodes. But like the first night after we filmed our first episode, first off, we were so hyped. We're like, dude, we're famous now. I'm going to get verified on all of my social media platforms probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
Cody was ready to launch a merch like run. Like we were hyped. Okay. And so all of those dreams have come true. You know, for sure. No. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, totally.
Blue chip.
Yeah, for sure. We've actually, we're going public on the stock market here next week, so you guys can be share owners of our
SSO, baby.
SSO. Yeah, it's projected to do great. No, so obviously, like we were pumped. But one of the things that Cody said that literally I have no verification for, and it could be completely arbitrary and made up, but we just went ahead with it and agreed.
Put it in ink. I'll link it.
Okay, it's gonna be in the show notes. We'll see if it really is or not. But anyways, no, I believe you. That's why we're doing this episode. But what he said was, the toughest kind of milestone when you're starting out for starting a podcast was to get to episode 7. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is if you can get past episode 7, the likelihood of you actually like doing it for a while is higher.
And becoming famous.
True. I
mean,
right.
The
like
more
said,
important piece of it.
Yeah. Which, like I said, that already happened. So we just pull back the veil and we're like, actually, we're just trying to become famous. So that's been the motivation the entire time.
How much have we made?
I can check, but I believe it's 88 cents.
Come on, baby.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys can tell the production value of our episodes has gone up so much. What we did was, and this is really out of the kindness of our own heart, we took the entirety of the profits that we made and just reinvested them back into the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, dude, it's changed the game. I think
we did tithe.
Yes. Well,
or we didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still in the account, dude. It's literally, there you go, 88 cents.
Dang, we there.
There you go.
Almost
for
$1.
We're definitely anyone who wonders how much podcasting can make you. This is
Bro,
it right
Dude,
here.
once we hit $1 for every subscriber, we should send them an invite to like Barlow's Pizza.
True. Just do like a big like get together.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm still saying, maybe this is off topic. I'm still saying if we ever get to the point where we have enough of a following, live podcast episode.
Absolutely.
Oh.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, so long story short, we're going to become famous because this is episode 7 is what we're trying to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And so what I wanted to do was first celebrate the win of that is episode 7. Okay? And secondly, and more importantly, over these next 2 halves, talk about what we have learned / what was expected and what did we prepare for, and then what like did we not expect.
Before we jump
and
into
prepare
that,
for. Yes.
I have a very important thought that I just had that I want to share with you all.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
We will now have 1 episode for every second of offense.
Yo. We made it.
Bro,
That's all I needed. We
maybe
could pack
we just
up the
end the
bags.
podcast right here.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this might be season 1 finale.
Dude, I could go to my tombstone with that.
Bro, that was a good thought right there.
That
Wow.
was episode for every second.
Yeah.
In no time,
Um,
we'll have Nash on here. But anyways,
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll just have our people like contact him.
yeah.
We just become the only media reporters in the bubble. It's just us. So anyways, okay, let's start expected and unexpected. What's a couple of things you guys expected that like happened? And I'm kind of interested, what was there anything you didn't expect about the process that you learned?
Jimmy, take the throne.
I think just like, well, it's funny because I obviously didn't expect to actually be featured like
Sure.
as a person or like my own persona like within the podcast.
Right,
Because originally like we had talked about it and it's funny, I actually was just like tagging along at first.
Yeah.
And because Theo's going over to Cody's house to go film it, and Theo was like, "Hey, do you wanna like come hang out? Like we're gonna do this thing." And I was like, "Oh yeah,
Right.
totally. Like that would be sick."
Right.
And then I go there, and then I help with some of like the video part of it, of just making sure that everything's like recording, all that kind of stuff. And then I like, my role is kind of like evolved into like fact checking, like media guy.
Yeah.
And then it was like, yeah, you can learn how to use like a smart TV. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And now it's like, hey, you can just like be in the episode. And I'm like, yo, let's go.
Dude, you
So-
arrived. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. SSO, we're all about promoting people.
Come
So,
on.
yo, if you
Yeah.
come out, if you want to be an intern, we'll open up an internship for you.
Level
we
you
promote
up.
you quickly. Okay.
Mhm.
True.
Get you
It's like the
verified.
stories of the people who like they go, which like this isn't any disrespect to people's professions, but it's
True.
like people who go from like they're like, yeah, dude, I used to like clean toilets, but like look at me now. And I'm like,
True.
dude, I freaking used to hit record on a camera. Look at me now. Again, I mean no disrespect, like that sounds so bad. That's like not what I mean.
You just
but it's
completely
like-
isolated all of the toilet cleaning people
Right.
that listen
Yeah.
to our.
Yeah, they're
Oh
punching
yeah,
air
and
right
anyone
now.
Yo.
who like anyone in film or like production too.
Yo,
I'm just like,
that said, shout out to the person from Ireland that's listening to our podcast. We
You're
have one
lying.
viewer from.
Oh,
we have
yeah,
one
true.
viewer from
No,
Ireland.
we do not.
I
dude, he
promise
sent
you.
it in the group text.
Yeah, dude.
We have a
promise
dude
you.
in Ireland?
or woman
Or
Oh,
woman, yeah.
or non-binary.
Yeah.
Listen, if
We
you're
have a
listening,
person.
you got to drop your any handle, social media handle in the
facts.
comments. Allow me to follow you, please.
Facts. We will
Visit.
Yeah, we'll do something. We don't have
88
literally
cents
anything
towards
to
a
give.
plane
Yo,
ticket.
We're
it's
like
true.
bigger
Actually,
fans of this mysterious person.
we do have stuff to give you. We'll send you 88 cents. I promise
Absolutely.
you.
I will Venmo you in a heartbeat.
100%.
That's crazy, dude. Ireland?
Yeah, dude.
That made my day. That's cool. Anyways, proceed
Yeah, it's
forward.
crazy. If you would have just read the group text like a couple weeks ago, your day would have been made back then. That's nuts. Okay, here's something that I didn't expect. Okay, this is not going to make much sense, but let me explain. It was much easier to do this than I thought. Like start a podcast and just do it. it was also much harder to do this than I thought. Let me explain. It was much easier in the sense that really all we had to do was like buy a couple mics and then that's it.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Like, obviously we have like a video component to it. So those of you watching on YouTube, like, you know, we're recording on Zoom, and then, you know, editing the videos and putting it up. So technically, yeah, we have to have like videos and stuff, or cameras and stuff. But as far as like the podcast aspect, I was talking to Jimmy about this. Dude, literally anybody could do this. I understand why there's so many podcasts out there. It's so easy.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Absolutely.
So I mean, technically, if I thought about it, I guess that I would have realized that it's easy. But now that I'm actually doing it, I'm like, dude, if you want to start a podcast, just do it. Like, there's literally nothing stopping you back, especially if you have a smartphone.
Yeah.
Because you can just hold it up to you and like do it.
Right.
Okay, how as hard as I thought. So we have this video component to the podcast because we wanted it to be on YouTube. Why? I don't know. I think
To be
honestly,
determined.
I feel like there's just another level to making videos than just recording something audio. Anyways, that's a good question. I've never really thought about that, but we just did it. We're overachievers is probably it. Hence our 88 cents that we just grinded out in like 7 weeks. So freaking rich. But the video recording process / video editing process / whole YouTube component didn't fully expect that to be as intricate and complicated as it is.
Yeah.
There's a couple episodes
Yeah.
where Cody and I almost lost it. There's one in particular, I think is episode 3 maybe,
Yeah.
where Jimmy wasn't there,
It was a
which I'm glad
nightmare.
that Jimmy's a part of the podcast. Bro, our card wasn't formatted or something. I don't really know, to be honest. But literally, we would have to record in like 5-minute clips.
Oh my goodness. And
And
then,
then go press it on and off in 5-minute segments.
on
Our
top of
episodes are
that,
45 minutes. Yeah.
I think everything got erased when we were like 30 or 40 minutes in, and then had to refilm.
Yeah,
No, that was the one that I was at. That was
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
like the
But that was
episode
another
after or
one.
something.
Yeah,
But
we finished the whole thing, and then it was like it just erased, and we had to go round 2.
Yep.
So those moments, like you hear in theory, like I've heard YouTubers be like, "Oh, my footage corrupted, and I had to record a video." I realize how frustrating that actually is when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I would,
Exhausting.
to that point, I would say, yo, if you can get the equipment that's gonna like make you work the least amount of time,
Right. Gonna sustain you the whole time.
like you could just do it with your phone. But I'm saying, like, if you have the equipment, spend the money to get it because you're gonna thank yourself later.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cody, is there anything you didn't expect?
Something I didn't expect. So this is a positive.
Yeah.
But it's gonna come across maybe negative. I definitely didn't expect we have 19 subbies.
True.
Yeah, I was really thinking we might have 5, 6, 7.
If you don't know, that's what we call our subscribers on YouTube, our subbies.
they're the strongest subbies on the
19?
internet.
Dude, it's a strong 19. It's an
Bro, it's
army.
kind of sick.
I know. So I've been like super happy about that, seeing it. Also, like some of our videos, 46 views on one of them.
Bro, I know.
That's quite a bit, actually. So I've been super stoked about that, nor was I expecting it.
Yeah.
To then feed off what I didn't expect. Yeah. I didn't expect how... So I went into a different... I just thought this would be a walk in the park. And I definitely didn't expect the time that this was going to take.
Yeah.
And I say that with a light grain of salt.
Yeah.
So more so of taking the back seat and then watching the both of you and the time that's put into this, and then as you coach me through it.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was definitely the first couple episodes like, okay, overwhelmed as can be.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a perspective just watching what you guys are doing.
Well, it's funny because Cody's a big money baller. And he would always just be like, dang, you guys are working hard. Can I just like pay you or something?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not going to make you pay me.
It was straight guilt. It's like,
I know. I'm like, that's a great start to the episode. Just make you pay me because you feel guilty.
that's so true.
But I mean, it shows how kind Cody is. It really does.
Oh, thank
So
you.
this segues nicely into one of the things that I have learned through this and have developed through this is delegation. So I'm just like, my whole thought process on like anything is just like, well, I'm just going to do what it takes to get it done.
Right,
That's just kind of
right.
like how I go into stuff. I'm like, well, we need a podcast episode up this week. So whatever it takes, I'm just going to make it happen. Now that works like for a while, but obviously in the long haul, like that definitely is not a good process. So Jimmy and I had a conversation a while ago because knowing Cody was like just sitting there like, dude, I'm doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was doing was I would edit and then I would upload it to YouTube. So Jimmy had the great idea of, well, what if we handed it to Cody and then Cody could just do the uploading process to YouTube. Now, if anybody's uploaded to YouTube, you're like, there's not a lot in it. But I think one of the things I was frustrated about is I was like not doing it to the best that I could do it. So there's like, well, one, Cody can now help, which is like you have more buy-in and like you're more hyped probably to be a part of stuff.
Yeah.
But then secondly, it can be done way better than me just like doing it by myself. So I've learned the importance of delegation for sure, especially like with something that's like carrying out on for a long time.
Right.
I like didn't want us to fall through the line when we got to episode 7, but I wanted us to be like running through it so that we can keep going and keep gaining all the amount of clout that we've gained from this so far.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I could kind of walk you through my mentals since starting.
Yeah.
Definitely insecure, right? Just kind of what we were talking about to a degree. And then processing, I think, and by no means I don't have money, but that's how I love. So to make up for it, and I was like, I felt guilty. I was like, at least I could play some type of part in this. Because we were talking about editors, so on and so forth. And then that got to a point, honestly, around like episode 3, I'm trying to process this. And so I haven't really said that in a while because, I just need to sit in this state of actually I don't know what I'm doing. I can't take the lead. And really at times I can't contribute much. And so I just sat in that like feeling of nastiness and where I was at. And then that's when I think it might have been you and Jimmy were like, okay, hey, we're going to have you fill this role and start to do this. And you do feel better. I feel like I'm contributing and walking through that. And that was still perfect, but I'm still in the back seat. Yeah. But I'm enjoying or attempting to enjoy then your guys' leadership of, hey, I still don't really know what I'm doing. But that was enough. And I was actually thinking a couple of days ago as prepping for this, I was like, so I've gone from then silence to then you leading and telling me this is what needs to get done and this is how we do it. To, okay, the next step would be then for me, hey, how can I help or how can I serve SSO? Like, what can I do next? Yeah. So that I would have never even imagined I would go through all this mental space of figuring so much out with not knowing or being equipped to do something like this.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you sell yourself short. Literally, Cody showed up to both the first and the second episode and had like pages of notes. Like, I'm not talking like 3 or 4 pages of notes that you had just like prepared. And I'm like, bro, this guy's like, that's I think what it was. It was like we saw, and especially I saw like how hard you were working. So I'm like, well, it's just like, let's point him in the right direction. So, yeah. Anyways, delegation's big.
I like that.
So, another thing that I've learned is the importance of having like a place that you're wanting to go and then being willing to change the temporary method and means that you're doing something in order to get to that place.
Right.
So what I mean is episode 7 thus far has been the goal, which dude, we gotta set like what's our new episode goal? Probably like 2,000.
Oh yeah. Probably just 365. Just so that way someone could listen to one every day for a year.
It's just like what do you call them? Multiples of 7. So we're like episode 49 and then
yeah.
It's the only other multiple of 7 that I've got off the top of my head, but no, but
if you guys can hear me, I think my internet shut down. So give me a second.
The math talk just is too much. So yeah, I think like having like a goal of like, this is where I want to go. Like this is like the vision. So for us, episode 7. And how do we get to episode 7? So Jimmy, you and I had a solid conversation of like, this is working, this isn't working. Like a great example of something that wasn't working was I felt like I ended up like just doing way too much of like the editing slash like uploading.
Yeah.
So it was like I recognize in myself, I'm going to burn myself out. So it's like coming to the point of like, hey, this just isn't working for me. What can like we all do to kind of pick it up? Or another good example, and this is where you shined in like your computer / detail oriented skills took us to the next level. Talking through the digital library that we have. So again, if you don't know, we have a digital library. It's linked in all of our personal social media accounts, as well as in the show notes. If you're obviously consuming this, that didn't make any sense. But it's a digital library that, we upload kind of consistently, and anytime we like reference a book or a podcast or whatever, it's on there. That was something that, we all kind of came up with as a solid idea. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, Jimmy, that's kind of your bread and butter, is an ability to create kind of those creative moments. And it's like having that stuff to say, hey, you like this carries to the bigger vision of getting like further, building a fan base, all of those things. And it helps you personally. You should run with it.
Yeah.
The digital library is probably my favorite part of the podcast.
Well, I was just like, yeah, dude, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorry, you really set me up for a home run there. But, yeah, it's just, I think, really for me, I think I've always known that I love to help people and I love to teach.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I didn't even realize until really as we're kind of discussing this is the fact that, like, the way that it manifests is so much different than like what I would have thought.
Right.
Because it's funny because it's like you see, like for me, I'm just like, oh yeah, like everyone would do this. When in reality, I know that no one like does it. Like even with like the digital library thing, I like made my own video tutorial on like for these guys to like get set up with it. And I was like, it was like a 5-minute video. I literally like made this whole thing of like, here's what you do, here's how you add stuff, here's like
included lo-fi hip hop beats.
I was about to say that my roommate and I literally were crying. I kept replaying. Like, hold on, let me put on the lo-fi.
Yeah, but it was like,
you have 500 subs. We'll release this video.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll show you how to make your own digital library. But it's funny because I just did it because I love it. I love to teach people, and it's stuff that like I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my approach with a lot of things in life has always been, I want to take people who are already good at, lots of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to make them, I want to get them even farther than where I could go myself.
Right.
So like kind of going off of what Theo was saying about like, really we're better together whenever we delegate things. Right. I think that like, I'm kind of on like the other side of like, instead of seeing like, looking at this puzzle, I realized that like I know what puzzle piece I am in the equation to be able to be like, I can do this, but I can fit with this person to make sure that they are doing like they can connect these other dots.
Right. Yeah, it's that whole like leadership principle of you start with the why. I think Simon Sinek wrote a book, but then there's also a YouTube video that we probably could link that popped off a couple years ago. But start with the why, and when you start with the why, then it's like the what makes sense. So it's like start with the why. Well, we want to help people. Like that was our first episode. Was like care about the individual. Like that's the basis of this whole thing. So it's like we want to help people. Okay, then it's like, yeah, you got to create a digital library, and that might be difficult, and I'm going to grind to get it done because we want to get it up by a certain time. But because we started with the why, like the digital library stuff makes sense, or the episodes make sense. Right. And I think that's where like there are moments where this gets tough, and like, I mean, to be fair, it's like 7 episodes. It hasn't gotten super hard, but there are moments where it's like I don't want to edit an episode or whatever.
Right.
But it's like having that why of like we want to help people. We feel that this can help people, and for our friendship and our relationships, like this strengthens us. Mm-hmm. So there's so many reasons why this is positive. So it's like, let's definitely do this and fight to make it happen because we have that like solid why.
Totally.
Right. So, okay, I wrote one more down, I think, of things that I've learned that I didn't necessarily like expect, or things that I planned to
I can say another thing while you're looking that up if you want.
Yeah, and I got it when you're done.
All right. Oh. Well.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, kind of along the lines of just like grinding to get it done and everything. I think part of it for me, and really kind of one of the biggest takeaways so far, is just like the idea that you put in a little work over time, and like the little things will eventually lead to like the big product that you want.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it's so impactful to me is because I've always seen it in a lens of personal development.
Yeah.
So it's like I do these certain things, like I go to the gym whenever it's open, you know, like I make sure to like be pretty careful with like things that I eat. And I know that it's like every day it's like making that choice to like do what you feel is right. And then it's like you see results long term. Like, you know, I'm not going to get a 6-pack from watching a video that's like, it's like the meme that's like 10-year-old me looking up like how to get 6-pack abs in 6 minutes on YouTube. But it's like, I think I've never really applied it to a physical product. Where something like this, where it's like, dang, dude, like we're 7 episodes in on like a podcast where it's like, I've only ever like maybe like thought about doing this, but never would have been like, oh, like, yeah, I could do that. Like, and then actually do it. But it's just like, it's not like we just like slave away over it, but it's just like we spend an hour or two like recording one day, and then we spend like, you know, some time editing another day. We spend some time working on YouTube stuff and scheduling it the next. And then it's like the little stuff like that we like intentionally do each day leads to like this big product.
Right. I think it's just such a testament of continuing to put a foot forward. So Jimmy, I think you can relate. We've had discussions. Theo, probably you can too, but you are 3 on the Enneagram. But you and I, Jimbo, we'll get definitely overwhelmed looking at the big picture. And then we never take the first step of getting there. So in other words, we'll just quit because we're so overwhelmed in our mentals. But just like what you're saying, and personally, I could definitely relate to that outside of the podcast. But I know the root of it is we did start something. Yeah. And every day we'll send a text, hey, this is what I'm working on. Then we move on to the next. It's almost like checking a list. And then you see the finalized product. And you're like, oh, this was attainable. This was achievable. Yeah. But it's just actually going and doing, which is probably something we've talked about in almost every episode.
Right. It's Luke chapter 16. Whoever can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And it's literally what we're doing. Right. Yeah, I have a question for you. So I've seemed to notice that this has affected the way that I look at other stuff that I'm doing outside of the podcast. Like, for example, so like with work, for example, there's certain things that I would like before this point would be like, man, this is frustrating and, you know, like bummer. And I like, don't get me wrong, I was working and still like trying to make stuff happen, but there was a certain level part of me that was like, what can I do? Yeah. Now I think there's more of a mentality of like, this isn't how I want it to be. And so what can I do to get it there? And then I actually do it. 100%. Have you like noticed that at all? Or
it's all, I think about it honestly often, weekly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could take this back to us starting the podcast. For me, it's going to be my voice. Yeah. Like my voice is worthy of being heard. So I've literally, and I've been praying about it quite a bit, but my leadership within the office, day and night, seriously, since we started the podcast, I don't think confrontation is the right word, but I'm able to sit down, bring something forth and recognize, hey, this isn't really our end goal. This isn't what we're striving for. Going back to Jimmy. And this is how we can get there instead of brushing stuff under the rug. But essentially it's because I care about everyone here. Yeah. And so the better that the team does, the better the individual does, or vice versa. The better the individual is going to do, the better the team is going to do. Yeah. So really in leadership, it's, that's what I've noticed the most.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, man. I definitely wouldn't have necessarily thought that was going to happen. No. But I know we talked about it on an episode or a couple episodes ago, but the idea that like there's certain things that you do in like one area of life that you don't think is going to affect another area, but it does. Right. And I definitely say that's the case for the podcast. It's like,
what have you seen then?
Well, I mean, like I said, to the point of work stuff. So, you know, now I'm at a point where I'm like, there's things that I'm just going for and like starting. Okay. And not waiting for like somebody to be like, hey, you need to like do X thing or like make X thing happen. It's just like, I'm just going to do it. Right. And then I know ultimately like at some point, you know, there'll be results. But I think that's the thing with the podcast. Like like, yeah, of course it's cool to like get a following and have people listen. But I think this is mostly, and this is the thing that I looked up. That was my last point. Do it because you love it, not because you want it to grow. Like that's what ultimately I've like really learned is like, I want it to grow. That'd be cool. But like, I love doing this.
Right.
So I'm just going to do it and like make it happen.
That's good.
And that's what I've noticed about like work stuff. There's like, so I'm a pastor. It's like, why am I a pastor? Because I love people and I love Jesus. And I think that Jesus not only makes our entire lives better, but he gives us hope after life, which is eternal life with him. Like literally the greatest thing that anybody could do is make a relationship for Jesus. I believe that wholeheartedly. So when it comes to work, it's like literally anything I do, why am I doing it? Because I want more people to hear about Jesus.
Right.
And I think like, yeah, I probably would have said that. Well, not probably. I definitely would have said that before.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
Who knows? I don't know. This podcast changed my theology. No, I definitely would have said that before. But there also was probably a level of me that was like, yeah, but I don't want to like take social media more seriously.
Right,
I don't want to text every single student about, you know, this thing that's coming up. Whereas now it's like, no, I need to do these things so that like people can come to hear about Jesus. And I think it's like really, this podcast has helped me like, I think kind of see that work in another area of life. So this podcast has been a moment where it's like, I want to see episodes come out because I enjoy doing it. So I'm just going to like take care of the like, kind of the bummer stuff so that we can make that happen. And it's now translated to other areas of my life. That's like, there's certain bummer things that I might have to do, but it's because I believe in the ultimate vision of like what it is.
That's so gnarly how it's affecting all of us outside of a podcast.
If you just have any sort of life issue, just start a podcast.
Yeah, it's the antidote to it all.
Yeah, it'll get better. Just launch a giant business if you can.
Podcast heals COVID.
Yeah, preferably if you could take out a big business loan or a small business loan, and maybe, you know, some other sort of life cementing, crippling thing that you could also take out. We encourage you to do all of those things to make your life better.
Right.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
The higher the APR that you can get on loans, the better, actually. Like, high numbers is always good.
Yep.
True. Also, if you could go to school and then drop out before, but make sure you take lots of loans out of the process.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like y'all are just roasting me.
I'm going to be honest, I completely forgot about that.
Yo, your boy, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Yo, you made
Forgive
it.
you.
You made it.
Still got some loans.
Yeah. Hey.
If there's something that I could just tag on that real quick, I think that especially for anyone who, you know, we say, you know, if you want to do whatever, just start a podcast and, you know, it's easy, all that sort of stuff. If I could make a suggestion that if anyone sincerely wanted to do that, I would strongly recommend doing it with someone else. Because I think that the best memories that we've had throughout it is what we've had with each other. So it's like, it's not the product itself that motivates us. And to Theo's point, it's like we do it because we want to help people and because like we love people, so we believe in it. But I think more than that too, I think a lot of the stuff that we've learned and like the biggest impact that it's had is like other relationships that we've had.
Yeah.
And how we navigate people or things at work or, you know, with each other, with other friends. And I think that that's kind of like, it's almost like its own relationship in a sense.
Definitely.
Like there's certain things that you love about it. There's certain things that you wish you didn't have to do, but you do it because it's like you care about the other people and you have other people to keep you accountable. And it's like I think the biggest thing is we're all on the same page going towards the same goal.
Right.
And so that's what makes it work, is because we all have like the same why and the same like end goal with this.
Right.
And so like if you're going to do it, I would suggest doing it with someone else, but also find like, I mean, even just life in general, just to be with people who like you're both like going on the right path together.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's funny too, because obviously, you know, we're all about these conversations that have changed the game for us. And the irony is that this podcast is probably, in this season especially, the biggest game changer for me. Like, probably hands down. I mean, aside from my relationship with Jesus, this podcast is definitely it.
And marriage.
Well, no, definitely marriage. But I'm saying, I guess.
I know.
Well, I guess my point is, Like it's even, I mean, even in my marriage, like I'm more intentional about my marriage because of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like big deal.
If you're going to say that, like something that's been killer for me is I'm learning to rely on people.
Yeah.
But literally this forced me to rely on you guys, and you guys have showed up.
Yeah.
Which is also then taking so much pressure off of me at the same time.
Yeah.
So like I'm back to like a morning grind, right? Just spending time with the Lord, working out in the morning, so on and so forth. But that I have that time because I'm not a slave to my work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because now I'm able to distribute and then rely on others, which then builds everyone up. And seriously, that's back to the pod.
There's a devotional by Brian Houston of Hillsong Church, pretty big Pentecostal,
the Eagle,
evangelical church, the Big Eagle. And anyways, it's this devotional that he talks about like stress, and it's this idea. He says, when you're stressed, rather than praying, God, take the stress from me, he says, God, pray that you would increase my capacity so that I could handle more.
The Eagle does it again.
Dude, I know. He drops heat. But man, that's what this podcast I think is and is reminding me is it's like I was already probably stressed with other stuff that I had to do. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to just also pick up a podcast.
Right.
But by picking up a podcast, just like marriage on a more gigantic of a scale, there's way more responsibility that you now have. And so you now rise to the occasion to reach it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I found with the podcast is it's like I've had to rise in this area. So now my floor is higher. So now I'm just like going to be able to continue to rise in other areas of life.
If our man's or woman's in Ireland doesn't start a podcast,
bro,
I don't know what will, because this is a pitch we're doing.
All I'm saying is Ireland is about to be different because of that podcast.
That's real.
What if we just changed our podcast name to like 7 Second Offense International? Because we believe that every single country is going to have a listener of 7 Second Offense.
Listen, we franchise SSO to international borders. Yeah.
Bro, that's wild.
We made it. Yeah, that's crazy. We haven't even talked about like this until now of like actually expressing how impactful this podcast has been. So pretty bummed.
We made it to episode 7.
I know.
Yo, and if you were with us at the beginning
and you're here now,
thank you.
My goodness, what a journey through the valley of the shadow of death.
You will fear no evil.
For thy Jimmy. Oh, he doesn't read his
Rod
Bible.
and your
and
staff will comfort.
Amen.
Yo.
So be the will of the Father.
Psalm 23, baby.
Shout out to
the Bible.
Yeah, man. So anyways, all that to say, to sum it up, rely on people, do stuff with friends, but also do stuff. And and it changes the game for sure.
It's a game changer.
It is.
Wouldn't be the same.
Needless to say, we're wrapping up the infamous episode 7. We did it.
We did it.
Yo, let's just say that there may or may not be some new branding for SSO coming up soon.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's exciting. I'm hyped.
I'm just saying,
I hope the people are.
Moves are ahead.
To double up the 88 cents.
Yes. So, again, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Listening on an audio version, give us that 5-star review. Give us that subscribe. And hey, episode 8. We're coming at you next week.
Baby.
Coming for you, baby.
Check out the digital library. We're putting in work. Love you guys.
Big facts. See ya.